The hum of the quantum stabilizers was slightly off-pitch today. Alex Ryder noticed it immediately upon entering the maintenance shaft of Nexus 7, the most advanced multi-species research outpost this side of the Veil Nebula. It wasn't something the station's hyper-precise diagnostic systems would flag, just a small deviation within acceptable parameters. But to Alex's well-trained human ear, it was as obvious as a scream in a library. Note to self, Alex muttered, placing a hand against the vibrating panel. Schedule harmonic recalibration for stabilizer array in Sector 12. The small, rectangular voice recorder in Alex's pocket remained silent. Unlike most station personnel who relied on neural implants or psychic recording devices, Alex preferred the simplicity of physical buttons and solid-state storage. It was part of what made the human technician stand out like a primitive curiosity among the station's intellectual elite. That, and the standard-issue Earth emergency medical kit strapped to Alex's utility belt, a compact red box with a white cross that seemed almost laughably archaic on a station equipped with molecular reconstructors and quantum healers. Ah, the Earthling and its container. The melodious voice of Dr. Zeiler floated down the corridor, each syllable vibrating with a hint of amusement. The Zeilerian scientist's massive cranium housed 3 distinct brain lobes, all apparently dedicated at this moment to observing Alex with scientific curiosity. Still carrying around that collection of primitive applications, I see. Alex suppressed a sigh. Good morning, Dr. Zeiler. It's called a first aid kit, and yes, I still find it useful. Fascinating anthropological specimen. Zeiler's tentacles rippled in what passed for a smile among his species. Like watching a primate using a stick to extract insects when molecular gastronomy devices are readily available. I suppose, Alex replied neutrally, having learned that arguing with a Zeilerian only led to increasingly complex debates about the nature of technological evolution that somehow always concluded with humanity being positioned just slightly above clever invertebrates. I was just noting that the quantum stabilizers are... I have no time for maintenance trivialities, Zeiler interrupted, his central, I already losing interest. We've made a breakthrough in the transdimensional membrane research. The implications are simply staggering. His tentacles quivered with excitement. That's great, Alex replied, genuinely impressed despite the condescension. Nexus 7 housed some of the most brilliant minds in the galaxy, after all. Their work regularly redefined what was possible. Zeiler was already floating away, muttering complex equations to himself. Oh, he added as an afterthought, there's been some disturbance in the biospectral signatures of several specimens in Lab 42. Probably just a harmonic fluctuation in the quantum field. The biotechnology specialists are running a level 8 diagnostic cascade. Have they tried simply checking the air filtration system? Alex suggested. Sometimes the basic. Please, Zeiler's voice dripped with polite disdain. Let's not reduce cutting-edge multidimensional biology to the level of an atmospheric contamination issue. That's precisely why we have 16 layers of quantum isolation fields. With that, the floating scientist disappeared around a corner, leaving Alex alone with the humming stabilizers. And that's precisely why I carry a first aid kit, Alex muttered to no one in particular. The human continued the morning maintenance rounds, checking systems that were supposedly self-monitoring but had, in Alex's experience, a surprising tendency to malfunction in the most basic ways despite their advanced designs. Nexus 7 was a marvel of interspecies cooperation, with each of its 12 founding species contributing their most advanced technologies. The result was a technological wonder that sometimes seemed designed by a committee of geniuses who couldn't agree on which dimension to primarily operate in. After finishing the rounds, Alex headed toward the central hub, a massive geodesic dome where representatives from over 30 species mingled, conducted research, and engaged in the complex dance of multicultural diplomacy. The air was filled with an authorized mixture of gases to accommodate the diverse respiratory needs of the station's inhabitants, giving the atmosphere a slightly sweet, metallic taste. As the human approached the common area, a commotion became apparent. A small crowd had gathered around one of the floopy-doo medical officers, Dr. Glargan, whose amorphous body was currently shaped into what appeared to be a professional medical configuration, with multiple appendages extending to operate various diagnostic devices around a seated Theragon officer. Absolutely fascinating, Dr. Glargan was saying, their voice a bubbling modulation of sounds. Commander Kthar seems to be experiencing a Type 7 quantum cellular disruption. The probability fields surrounding their crystalline structure are showing unusual harmonic resonances. Commander Kthar, whose normally iridescent crystal-like body appeared slightly clouded, made a grinding sound that the station's universal translators interpreted as, "It is simply a minor discomfort. I merely require a recalibration of my lattice structure." "With respect, Commander," Glargan burbled, "my 7th auxiliary sensory node is detecting anomalies that suggest something far more complex than a standard lattice misalignment." Alex lingered at the edge of the gathering, observing with professional interest. The commander's normally sharp-edged appearance did seem unusually dull, with a slight brownish discoloration at the extremities. "Perhaps," Alex ventured carefully, "it's something similar to what's happening in Lab 42? Dr. Zeiler mentioned biospectral disruptions among the specimens there. All eyes, visual sensors, and sensory appendages turned toward the human. Some expressions registered surprise, as if they'd forgotten a human was stationed on board. Others displayed the particular brand of polite tolerance reserved for when a child makes an unexpectedly perceptive comment at a dinner party. Dr. Glargan's body rippled. "Ah, technician writer. While I appreciate your input, this is clearly a case requiring the highest level of multiphasic quantum medical analysis. Commander Kthar's crystalline biology operates on 7 concurrent dimensional planes." "I understand," Alex nodded, "but I was just thinking—" "Thank you, technician," Commander Kthar interrupted, their voice crystalline and commanding despite their apparent discomfort. "Your concern is noted. However, this station operates according to specific protocols. Protocol dictates that medical incidents involving Alpha-class personnel are to be handled exclusively by chief medical officers with Level 9 clearance and above." Alex recognized the dismissal and stepped back with a respectful nod. A second Theragon officer approached, this one's crystalline structure perfectly clear and vibrant, and positioned themselves next to the commander in a protective stance. "Perhaps," Alex suggested quietly, "you could move the commander away from the environmental regulator behind him? That unit has been running hot lately, and heat might be aggravating whatever's happening with his lattice structure." The standing Theragon officer made a sharp, dismissive gesture with one crystalline arm. "The commander's biophysical condition requires stabilization through proper quantum medical procedures, not primitive environmental adjustments." Alex backed away, knowing when to retreat. As a maintenance technician with basic medical training, officially designated as Emergency Response Level 2, Alex occupied nearly the lowest rung on Nexus 7's complex hierarchical ladder. Only the janitorial droids and the mysterious beings who operated the station's cafeteria ranked lower. The rest of the day passed uneventfully, filled with routine maintenance tasks and the usual casual dismissal from the station's more esteemed inhabitants. By evening cycle, Alex had almost forgotten about the morning's medical incident until a station-wide announcement echoed through the corridors. "Attention all personnel," the calm, synthetic voice of the station's central AI system announced. "A Level 3 bioanomaly has been detected in Sectors 7, 12, and 42. As a precautionary measure, all non-essential personnel are advised to remain in their quarters while containment protocols are initiated. This is not an emergency situation. Repeat, this is not an emergency situation." Alex was in the midst of repairing a water reclamation unit in one of the station's less prestigious areas when the announcement came. Unlike most of the station's advanced systems, water still behaved like water regardless of which dimension you viewed it from, making it one of the few systems Alex could fix without consulting 17 different cultural engineering paradigms. "That doesn't sound good," Alex muttered, securing the panel on the reclamation unit. Instead of heading to the assigned quarters, however, human curiosity prevailed, and Alex took a detour toward Lab 42, where the initial biospectral disruptions had been reported. The lab's entrance was sealed, but through the transparent observation window, Alex could see a flurry of activity. Several of the station's top scientists were gathered around what appeared to be a containment field. Within it, floating in suspension, was a small, ordinary-looking gray rock. Multiple scanning beams of various colors intersected on the object. Fascinating, Dr. Zeiler was saying, his tentacles waving excitedly. The rock is exhibiting quantum superposition properties that should be impossible for non-sentient matter. It's simultaneously maintaining 37 different molecular configurations. The harmonic resonance patterns match what we're seeing in the affected crew members, added a towering insectoid scientist that Alex recognized as the head of xenobiology. I recommend we increase the isolation field to include 11th dimensional shielding, suggested a cloud of luminous gas that contained the consciousness of Dr. Pryx, the station's quantum physicist. Through the glass, Alex noticed something that the scientists, focused on their advanced readings and theories, seemed to be overlooking. The environmental display panel near the rock showed humidity levels rising steadily, and condensation was forming on the inner surface of the containment field. The rock appeared to be sweating. Alex tapped on the glass, trying to get their attention, but was roundly ignored. A security officer, one of the gelatinous Blorbians, oozed up beside Alex. "This area is restricted," the Blorbian burbled, its surface rippling with authoritative patterns. "Please return to your assigned quarters immediately. I just noticed something about." "Return to your quarters," the Blorbian repeated, more forcefully. "Security Protocol 7 Alpha is in effect." Recognizing the futility of arguing, Alex reluctantly complied, but not before taking one last look at the sweating rock and the oblivious scientists studying everything about it except its most obvious physical characteristic. Back in the small quarters assigned to maintenance personnel, Alex sat on the edge of the narrow bed, mind racing. The connection between the laboratory specimens, Commander Kthar's condition, and the sectors mentioned in the announcement seemed obvious. They were all in proximity to recently upgraded environmental regulators. It couldn't be that simple, could it? Alex wondered aloud, pulling out a station's schematic on a tablet. After overlaying the affected sectors with the station's environmental control system, a pattern emerged. All affected areas were serviced by the same recently enhanced atmospheric processing unit, an upgrade insisted upon by the Xylarians despite protests from the engineering department that the old system was functioning perfectly well. As Alex pondered this discovery, the station's announcement system activated again. "Attention all personnel." The AI's voice now had a subtle undercurrent of concern that its programming wasn't quite able to mask. "A level 5 bioanomaly is now in effect. All personnel are to report to designated medical scanning stations according to your species classification. This is a mandatory precautionary measure." The announcement continued, listing off various species and their assigned screening locations. Humans, being one of the least numerous species aboard, were almost an afterthought at the end of the list. "This can't be good," Alex muttered, grabbing the first aid kit before heading to the designated screening area, a small medical bay near the maintenance section that was rarely used except for the occasional accident involving tools and fingers. Upon arrival, Alex found 2 other humans already waiting, a xenolinguist and a cultural liaison, both looking concerned but not panicked. "Any idea what's happening?" asked Sophia Petrov, the linguist. "Something with that rock they brought aboard last week," Alex replied, sharing the observation from Lab 42. "I think it might be related to the new atmosphere processors, but nobody's interested in hearing theories for maintenance." "Classic Nexus," nodded Omar Chun, the cultural liaison. "Why consider something might be basically wrong when you can theorize about 11-dimensional quantum disruptions instead?" A medical drone floated into the room, its scanning appendages extended. "Please remain still for comprehensive physiological assessment," it instructed in a pleasant voice. The scan took less than 10 seconds per person, after which the drone announced, "No anomalies detected in human physiology." You are clear to return to regular duties with Level 3 bias safety protocols in effect. That's it. Sophia looked skeptical. What exactly are we being cleared of? The drone's processors whirred audibly as it formulated a response. The current bioanomaly is manifesting as a disruption of quantum cellular cohesion in affected individuals. Species with simplified physical structures or non-quantum cellular organization appear to be resistant. Simplified? Omar raised an eyebrow. I've never been so insulted and relieved simultaneously. Did you just say we're too primitive to be affected? Alex asked the drone. The machine hovered silently for a moment, apparently processing the politically correct way to confirm exactly that. Human cellular structure lacks the quantum variability present in more evolutionarily advanced species, it finally stated. Well, I'll take primitive over dying from quantum cellular disruption any day. Sophia shrugged. As they were speaking, the medical bay's door slid open and a gurney floated in, bearing the now obviously ill Commander Cthar. The Ctharigan-esque crystalline body had dulled significantly, with brown discoloration now covering nearly half his form. Dr. Glargan pulsated alongside, frantically manipulating a complex medical device. The quantum stabilization isn't working, Glargan burbled anxiously. His lattice structure is decohering at an increasing rate. The three humans stepped back as several medical drones converged on the commander. Alex noticed with alarm that Dr. Glargan's normally vibrant amorphous body also showed signs of discoloration around the edges. Doctor, Alex ventured, you don't look well yourself. Glargan paused, extending a sensory appendage to examine their own body. An astute observation, human. I appear to be exhibiting early-stage quantum decoherence as well. Most concerning. Maybe you should be treated too? I'm implementing self-treatment protocols while attending to the commander, Glargan replied dismissively. My multiphasic awareness allows me to operate on multiple cognitive planes simultaneously. Alex wasn't convinced. Doctor, about the atmospheric processors. This is hardly the time for maintenance concerns. Glargan snapped, their usual bubbling tone sharpened with stress. The medical bay's communication panel chimed, and the central AI's voice filled the room. Attention medical personnel. Multiple cases of advanced quantum decoherence are being reported station-wide. Emergency Protocol Omega 7 is now in effect. All Level 9 and above medical officers are to report to Central Medical for emergency consultation. Glargan's body rippled with what might have been alarm. I must go. These drones will continue the commander's treatment. The situation appears to be escalating beyond initial projections. As the doctor oozed hurriedly from the room, Alex approached the commander's bedside. The drone's treatments seemed to be having minimal effect, and the Ctharigan-esque once brilliant crystalline form was growing duller by the minute. Commander, Alex said gently, may I try something? The Ctharigan-esque response was weak, the universal translator struggling to interpret the faint grinding sounds. Situation, critical. Conventional approaches, failing. Alternative suggestions, acceptable. Taking that as permission, Alex opened a first aid kit and removed a digital thermometer, a simple device that was practically an antique by station standards. I just want to check your temperature, Alex explained, holding the device near the commander's surface. After a moment, it registered a reading significantly above the Ctharigan-esque normal range. You're overheating, Alex stated. I think your crystalline structure is being affected by excess heat, possibly from the new atmosphere processors. They've been running much hotter than the old system. Alex turned to Sophia and Omar. Can you help me move him away from any vents and see if we can find something to cool him down? The other humans nodded, and together they carefully repositioned the commander's gurney to the coolest corner of the room, away from any environmental systems. Alex rummaged through a storage cabinet and found emergency cooling packs, standard supplies in any medical bay, even one as rarely used as this. These might help, Alex said, carefully arranging the packs around the Ctharigan-esque form. They're just chemical cooling packs, nothing quantum or fancy, but they might lower your temperature enough to stabilize your lattice structure. Within minutes, the discoloration on the commander's extremities stopped spreading, and a faint luminescence returned to parts of his crystalline body. "It's working," Sophia observed with surprise. "Temporary improvement," the commander managed to communicate. "Explanation required." Alex explained the theory about the new atmospheric processors generating excess heat that was particularly affecting quantum-sensitive species. "It's not showing up on the station's sensors because they're calibrated to detect exotic problems, not simple overheating. The most advanced multi-species station in the quadrant might be experiencing the equivalent of a fever," Omar added, "and nobody noticed because they were too busy looking for interdimensional pathogens." The communication panel chimed again, but this time the AI's voice sounded different, strained, as if its processing capabilities were being taxed to their limits. "Attention, all personnel. Emergency situation declared. Quantum decoherence events accelerating station-wide. Central medical reports inability to contain the progression. All personnel are advised to implement species-specific emergency protocols. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." The three humans exchanged alarmed glances. "We need to get to the central hub," Alex decided. "If this is happening everywhere, they need to know about the cooling solution, simple as it is. And we should bring more of these," Sophia added, gathering up the remaining cooling packs. With the commander stabilized and in the care of the medical drones, they hurried toward the central hub, only to find the corridors increasingly chaotic. Various species were rushing in all directions, some clearly showing signs of the mysterious ailment. The station's lighting flickered occasionally, suggesting that even the power systems were being affected. When they finally reached the central hub, the scene was one of sophisticated panic. Advanced species from across the galaxy were engaged in complex emergency procedures. Multiple holographic displays showed spreading patterns of decoherence, and the station's most brilliant minds were debating theories at a mathematical level that made Alex's head spin. In the center of it all, Dr. Zyler floated above a holographic display, his tentacles now showing concerning signs of discoloration. "The quantum field disruption is propagating through subspace," he was explaining to a group of senior scientists. "We must implement a station-wide quantum field recalibration." "Dr. Zyler," Alex called out, pushing through the crowd. "We found something that helps. It's the atmospheric processors. They're generating excess heat that's particularly affecting quantum-sensitive species." Zyler's three eyes swiveled toward Alex with what might have been irritation, disbelief, or both. "Technician Ryder, this is hardly the time for maintenance-level observations. We are dealing with a cascading quantum event that's affecting the very fabric of reality within the station." "But we stabilized Commander Thar with cooling packs," Alex persisted. "His condition improved as soon as we lowered his temperature." "A coincidental correlation, nothing more," Zyler dismissed. "The commander's crystalline structure naturally undergoes periodic fluctuations that could account for temporary improvement." "Please," Alex implored, "just consider it." The new atmospheric processors were installed right before these problems started. They're running much hotter than the old ones, and they service exactly the sectors where the anomalies first appeared. Dr. Glargan oozed into the conversation, their body now showing significant discoloration. "While I'm reluctant to entertain such a simplistic hypothesis, at this juncture, all theories must be considered. The human's cooling technique did indeed show promising results with Commander Thar." Zyler's tentacles rippled with what might have been concession. "Very well. We shall add environmental temperature management to our list of countermeasures, though I still maintain that a complete quantum field recalibration is our primary solution." "And how long will that take?" Sophia asked. "Approximately 7 standard hours to implement," replied Dr. PRYX's luminous cloud form, now noticeably dimmer than usual. "We may not have 7 hours," Glargan warned, their voice bubbling with urgency. "Decoherence rates are accelerating exponentially." Alex looked around the room, noting with alarm how many of the station's non-human inhabitants were showing symptoms now. "We need to cool the station immediately." Can we reroute power from non-essential systems to the cooling units? A crude but potentially effective interim measure, Zyler acknowledged reluctantly. Medical Officer Glargan, coordinate with the human technician on this thermal regulation approach. I will continue preparations for the quantum recalibration. As Zyler floated away to join a team of senior scientists, Glargan's body rippled with what might have been a sigh. The environmental control systems are managed from Engineering Section 3. We should proceed there immediately. Together with Sophia and Omar, Alex and Dr. Glargan made their way through increasingly chaotic corridors. The station's lighting continued to fluctuate, and in some sections, gravity seemed to be behaving erratically, clear signs that even the most basic systems were being affected by the spreading quantum disruption. When they finally reached Engineering Section 3, they found it deserted except for a few maintenance droids unsuccessfully attempting to repair malfunctioning consoles. Where is everyone? Omar wondered. Engineering staff primarily consists of Curtanian and Melvex species, Glargan explained, their voice weaker than before. Both are highly quantum sensitive. They likely evacuated to their emergency pods. Alex moved to the central environmental control console, which thankfully was designed with physical interfaces for emergency use rather than the usual neural or psychic controls. I think I can reroute power to maximize cooling, but it might take some time to affect the whole station. Time we may not have. Glargan burbled ominously, their form now showing significant deterioration. I calculate approximately 2 hours before quantum decoherence reaches irreversible levels for most affected species. As Alex worked frantically at the console, rerouting power and manipulating the station's complex environmental systems, Sophia monitored Glargan's condition, applying cooling packs to the most affected portions of their amorphous body. Stay with us, Doctor, she encouraged. The cooling seems to be slowing the progression. A temporary measure, Glargan replied weakly. Fascinating, though. Such a simple solution, overlooked by so many brilliant minds. After nearly 30 minutes of intense work, Alex finally managed to reconfigure the station's environmental systems to maximize cooling in all affected sectors. That should do it, Alex announced, wiping sweat from his brow. Temperature should start dropping significantly within minutes. An elegant solution, Glargan commented, their conditions seeming slightly improved with the localized cooling Sophia had applied. Perhaps we have been overlooking the obvious in favor of the complex. Just as a sense of cautious optimism began to emerge, the station's central AI voice came online again, but this time the synthetic voice was distorted, breaking up between words. Critical alert. Quantum core destabilization. Cascade failure imminent. Emergency. Protocols. Failing. The lights flickered more violently, and a deep, reverberating shudder ran through the station structure. What's happening now? Omar asked, gripping a console for stability. Glargan's body pulsed with alarm. The AI core? It must be affected by the quantum disruption as well. If it fails completely, the station's primary systems will go with it, Alex finished grimly. Life support, gravity, structural integrity, everything. As if confirming this assessment, another announcement began but cut off mid-sentence. Emergency evacuation order. All personnel proceed to. Then silence. We need to get to the emergency communication center, Alex decided. If the AI is failing, we need to send a distress signal manually. They hurried through corridors that were now alarmingly empty, the few beings they encountered clearly in advanced stages of the mysterious ailment. The temperature was noticeably dropping throughout the station thanks to Alex's adjustments, but for many, it appeared to be too little, too late. The emergency communication center was located near the command deck, an area usually off-limits to someone of Alex's rank. When they arrived, they found the doors unsealed and the room vacant, except for a single Therigan officer slumped over a console, their crystalline form almost completely brown and lifeless. Alex rushed to the main communication panel, while Sophia checked on the fallen officer. "They're gone," she said quietly. Glargan oozed to a corner of the room, their once vibrant form now dull and sluggish. It appears we may be among the last functional beings on the station, they observed, a somber bubbling in their voice. The irony is not lost on me that the quantum simplicity of human physiology has become your greatest asset. Alex worked quickly at the communication console, bypassing the AI systems to access the manual emergency beacon. Got it, he announced after a tense moment. Distress signal activated on all standard channels. Now we just need to survive long enough for someone to respond. Another violent shudder ran through the station, followed by the ominous sound of metal strain echoing through the structure. Structural integrity fields failing, Glargan analyzed. Without the AI to manage power distribution and compensation algorithms, the station's physical structure is beginning to succumb to the stresses of space. How long do we have? Omar asked. Difficult to calculate precisely. Perhaps hours, perhaps less. Just then, the station's emergency lighting activated, bathing everything in a dim red glow as the main power fluctuated. A new voice came over the communication system. Not the AI this time, but Dr. Zeiler, his usually melodious tones now strained. Attention remaining functional personnel. Central AI systems are compromised beyond recovery. Our final solution is being implemented. A complete quantum reset using the station's experimental dimensional fold technology. This procedure has never been attempted at this scale. Side effects are unpredictable. May the cosmos preserve our knowledge. They're going to try something experimental? Sophia looked horrified. In this condition, the Xylarians would rather attempt an untested theoretical solution than accept defeat, Glargan explained, a gurgling sound that might have been a bitter laugh escaping their deteriorating form. It is both their greatest strength and their most catastrophic flaw. We need to get to a secure location, Alex decided, gathering up what emergency supplies were available in the communication center, preferably somewhere with independent life support and structural reinforcement. The maintenance safety bunkers, Omar suggested. They're designed to function even during catastrophic station failure. An excellent suggestion, Glargan agreed, their voice now barely audible. You should proceed there immediately. I will remain here. My structural integrity is too compromised for movement. We're not leaving you, Alex insisted, already pulling out cooling packs from the first aid kit. Your compassion is noted, human, Glargan replied, but misplaced. Save yourselves. Someone must survive to explain what happened here. Before they could argue further, a new sensation rippled through the station, not the physical shudder of structural failure, but something more profound. The very air seemed to shimmer, and for a brief, nauseating moment, reality itself appeared to bend. They've activated the quantum reset, Glargan burbled, their form beginning to lose cohesion entirely. Go. Now. The three humans hesitated only a moment before the increasing distortion of reality around them forced them into action. With one last regretful look at Glargan, they rushed from the communication center toward the nearest maintenance bunker. The corridors had become a nightmare landscape of fluctuating gravity, flickering lights, and occasional space-time distortions that made navigation nearly impossible. Twice they encountered other station inhabitants, once a group of insectoid scientists whose exoskeletons had partially dissolved in a quantum foam, and later a Cortani engineer whose multiple limbs were phasing in and out of reality. There was nothing they could do for either. When they finally reached the maintenance safety bunker, a reinforced chamber designed to protect essential personnel during critical system failures, they sealed the doors behind them with a sense of grim relief. The bunker was basic but functional, with independent air recycling, emergency rations, and structural reinforcement that should withstand most catastrophes. What do you think is happening out there? Sophia asked as they caught their breath. Something that's never been attempted before, Alex replied grimly. A complete quantum reset of a multidimensional space station using experimental technology initiated by brilliant but desperate scientists who were themselves suffering from quantum decoherence. So, nothing good, Omar summarized dryly. The bunker's small observation window provided a limited view of a maintenance corridor outside. Through it, they watched in horrified fascination as reality itself seemed to unravel. Objects phased in and out of existence. Energy discharges of impossible colors crackled through the air, and at one point, what appeared to be the same section of corridor existed simultaneously in multiple configurations, overlapping like a badly tuned hologram. I think it's safe to say the quantum reset isn't going according to plan, Alex observed quietly. A series of violent shudders rocked the bunker, followed by the unmistakable sound of catastrophic structural failure somewhere in the distance. The emergency lights flickered and died, leaving only the bunker's independent lighting system functioning. That didn't sound good, Sophia whispered. For hours that felt like days, they huddled in the safety bunker as the sounds of destruction echoed throughout the station. Occasionally, the very fabric of reality around them would distort, causing nausea and disorientation, but the bunker's specialized shielding, designed to protect against exotic radiation and spatial anomalies, held firm. Eventually, an eerie silence fell. No more shudders, no more sounds of destruction, no more reality distortions. Just the quiet hum of the bunker's independent systems. "Do you think it's over?" Omar asked after what felt like an eternity of silence. "Only one way to find out," Alex replied, approaching the bunker's sensor panel. The limited diagnostics available showed nothing but error messages when attempting to connect with the station's main systems. "I think we need to look outside," Alex decided reluctantly. Together, they prepared for possible hazards, donning emergency breathing apparatus from the bunker supplies and arming themselves with a few tools that might serve as improvised weapons if necessary. Then, with great caution, they unsealed the bunker door. The corridor outside was barely recognizable. Where there had once been sleek walls of advanced materials displaying holographic status indicators, there was now twisted metal, exposed circuitry, and the occasional splash of material that none of them wanted to identify too closely. Emergency force fields had automatically activated over breaches in the hull, containing the atmosphere, but highlighting just how close they were to the vacuum of space. "We need to find out if anyone else survived," Sophia said, her voice muffled through the breathing apparatus. They made their way carefully through the devastated station, moving from one sealed section to another, avoiding areas where structural integrity had been completely compromised. Everywhere they looked was evidence of catastrophic failure, both technological and biological. The remains of various species lay where they had fallen, many deteriorated beyond recognition, others preserved in grotesque poses of final agony. When they finally reached the central hub, having to take a circuitous route through maintenance tunnels and emergency passages, the scene was apocalyptic. The once magnificent geodesic dome was shattered, with only emergency force fields preventing total decompression. The advanced technology that had once filled the space was now largely melted, crystallized, or transformed into unidentifiable masses. In the center of it all, floating in a containment field that had somehow maintained integrity throughout the catastrophe, was the innocuous gray rock, the specimen that had started it all. It appeared completely unchanged, still sweating condensation within its prison. "After everything, that thing is still intact." Omar shook his head in disbelief. "The ultimate irony," Alex said bitterly. "The most advanced space station in known space, with the most brilliant minds from dozens of species, and they were all destroyed by, what? Heat sensitivity? A fever. A fever they couldn't diagnose because they were too busy looking for exotic explanations," Sophia added. While the solution was as simple as cooling down, they continued their grim survey of the station, finding no survivors. The quantum reset had failed catastrophically, accelerating the very decoherence it was meant to halt. Section by section, they confirmed what they had feared. They were the only living beings remaining on Nexus 7. Days later, when an Earth Alliance vessel finally responded to the distress signal, they found the 3 humans surviving on emergency rations in what remained of the maintenance section, surrounded by the greatest technological disaster in recent galactic history. The official investigation that followed was extensive, with experts from all surviving spacefaring species examining the evidence. The conclusion, somewhat sanitized for diplomatic purposes, cited a cascading multi-system failure resulting from unforeseen interactions between diverse technologies. Alex Rider's unofficial report was much simpler. They overheated. The atmospheric processors ran too hot, affecting quantum-sensitive species. Simple cooling would have solved it if implemented early enough, but they were looking for complex solutions to a simple problem. By the time they tried the quantum reset, most of them were too deteriorated to implement it properly, and it backfired catastrophically. The report was filed away, deemed too provocative for general distribution. The simplified narrative became that Nexus 7 had fallen victim to an unpredictable quantum accident, a tragic reminder of the risks inherent in pushing the boundaries of science. But in certain circles, particularly among human space engineers and practical-minded species like the Taurians, a different lesson spread. Always check the simple things first. Some even shared a darker joke that wasn't really a joke. The human brought a first aid kit. Somehow everyone else died. Alex Rider eventually returned to space duty after the required psychological evaluation, accepting a position on a mixed-species research vessel with a reputation for practical approaches to cutting-edge science. The standard-issue Earth emergency medical kit remained secured to Alex's utility belt, a simple reminder of a profound truth that an entire station of geniuses had fatally overlooked. In a universe of quantum uncertainties and 11-dimensional physics, sometimes the problem is just the heat, and the solution is just cooling down. And sometimes, the most primitive tool is the one you need most.